Hey, that's pretty good. Myself and Esfandiar Baraheni are here to talk all about the Raptors 2-0 since the trade win over the Ja Morant-led Grizzlies. 116 to 111, the Raptors win in a game that encapsulated a lot of the highs that are expected of the new players and also like a bunch of stuff that we want to see going forward. There's some hiccups and all that. And also now joined by Blake Murphy, who's going to be hopping on at some point in time. One sec. Okay, now he's in. Blake S. I'll start with you, Blake. How you doing? Fun game, right?
Very fun. Very fun. Yeah, a little clunky down the stretch there, but so much to build on at both ends. Already look a little better defensively than I would have expected by game two with only one practice in there. And then, yeah, I mean, offensively, 45 minutes of that looked a lot more fun. And I think it makes a lot of sense that the late game stuff's probably the last stuff to come. Really, though, I'm just in here because my plan is actually I'm going to copy S copying you because I want a nickname as good as S Barney. It doesn't get better than that.
It was pretty good. Not to do just one quick thing. It got sent to me because somebody asked me, "Does he steal your stuff?" And I was like, "No." But I sent it to S. I was like, S Barney's pretty funny. But
this is the dirty secret that everyone needs to know is that like none of us consume each other's content. Like if there's overlap and stuff,
Exactly.
like we're all supporting each other publicly. Nobody reads anything. Nobody listens to anything. It's just accidental when that happens.
You ain't got the time, man.
Yeah, if
exactly.
Blake or S ever know anything, it's because I said it to them directly. They will never read any unless Blake reads it to hate on it or something. But
Exactly.
Blake, final thoughts before I let you get out of here if you're popping off.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's it. I mean, I thought it was great that Quickley kind of shot through it. Obviously, we see the effects really early of that pull-up three skill and just how that, especially in those bench units, what that can do to a defense. And I thought there's a stretch of play. I can't remember if it was late third or early fourth, but him and Scottie set each other up for a three, like on consecutive possessions, then ran a pick and roll where Scottie kind of did the delayed shuffle back pop and then was able to attack against an advantage for free throws. I want to see more of that. I'm so excited to see what that pairing grows into over the next 50.
Not because there's a lot of stuff that went on in this game, but since I have you here, Jontay Porter, the defense I thought looked awesome, and that's your guy. So kind of like go off on that for a little bit.
Yeah, so I actually have a big feature on him coming at Sportsnet on Friday. So the timing here, I was trying to time it around like when I thought he might get minutes. I obviously held it back one game too late, but he's cool. I think defensively, Ja and Jaren is a tough matchup for a guy who is not. He's not east to west kind of mobile as a big. He's a little more stationary. You're going to want him in drop coverage a little bit more. The 905 will even sometimes against certain opposing bigs or opposing guards have Moguet guard the pick and roll and station Jontay in a weak corner, kind of what the Raptors tried to do down the stretch there with Jakob Poeltl off of Jaren so that Scottie could be in that action. Similar kind of thinking. So I thought for that matchup, for his first 7 minutes to come against, he showed some good stuff. And then, I mean, he didn't hit his shots, but you see right away that, physically he's a good screen setter and having that little bit of passing. If he's the 9th or 10th guy in this rotation, I think he could certainly like run with that role if he gets a little chance here.
A few things happened. The newest Raptors, RJ, Quickley, Jontay, looked really good. The connective defense stuff, like they looked better than the old Raptors for moments in time. Pascal is sliding into kind of like an assassin wing scorer role. Quickley gives you 26 and does so in the blink of an eye, hardly taking up like some possessions he took dribbles, especially late, but does it on like low calorie stuff. Scottie gives you 20 and 8. Only 2 rebounds, but Yak was pretty big, and there's a lot of guys coming in. It's role definition seems to be something that's emerging. It seems to be intuitive.
Clarity. Yeah.
Clarity. What do you think about that, S?
Yeah, no, that's a great point because it just feels like there's an understanding amongst the players where things are going to flow, both offensively and defensively. I thought the fact that Jontay got minutes showed you that there was probably a need for that sort of big man in that rotation at some point, which is why I'm curious to see if he'll end up getting even more minutes because he was good in his stint tonight. And ultimately, I really enjoy the fact that this team can go through different looks in a game now, and those looks look very different. The 3 guard lineup that they can throw out there, they can go a little bit bigger. You have RJ who can be this sort of secondary creator for you in these second units. And it gives you just a lot of juice offensively. And I think you saw that throughout this game. Yes, there were droughts. And I think part of that is just figuring out the kinks of this, but it looked really, really good overall.
It's they had 9 different lineup configurations that came out as a positive in this game, which is a really good identifier because it was meaningful, of course, that the starters won their minutes. That's something that the Raptors have been trying to get on top of over however many different games. The Chris Boucher minutes won a bunch, but to be able to, of course, you want a lineup that dominates its minutes, high volume, all that kind of stuff. But to be able to do it piecemeal throughout the game, I think was really impressive and speaks to how this Raptors team prior to this, the construction of it was a little bit awkward where they needed extra creation. They might not have had it. And when they had creation, they had a little bit too much of the same type. And you see a couple guys like RJ Barrett, who his extra creation is extremely welcome on this team. And Immanuel Quickley is a new type of creation that didn't exist prior to that. And Dennis Schroeder paring down his game a little bit and then pairing it up depending on what type of lineup he's in. He was awesome tonight. And I think he's been really good kind of managing the different roles the past however many games. But Blake, before we let you go, the one last thing, what have you thought about like the overall balance?
Yeah, I think it's nice. I mean, it's almost whiplash to go from so few ball handlers to having, it feels like almost one extra maybe at this point. And like you're going to run Dennis Quickley stuff where you never really thought much about Dennis Malachi lineups. Like they played it a couple minutes, but like it just wasn't good enough offensively to justify it. So I think it's nice. I think it balances. I mean, we talked about it for a long time, you know, what Dennis moving to the bench even before the trade might do to just make the rotation all make a little bit more sense. And he's been really, really good, I thought, the last couple games. So that's great. He has this nice knack for the day before he comes on the Raptors show with us. He has good games. So that's good for tomorrow. But yeah, I think it's good. I think probably my biggest question right now is, you know, how Gary finds his fit. Obviously the minutes are there. He's going to play a little bit more nominally at the 3. You know, he looked a little out of sorts offensively the last 2 games. I thought he was okay defensively, but yeah, a little. Here comes a very high cat, by the way.
Hey, Brody.
He's on some pain meds. He went Samson mode this morning.
Nice.
Had a little seizure. So, but yeah, I think that's mostly it. There are a couple guys who are going to have to find their spots. You know, RJ, what's the right level to pare it down? Gary, where did his shots come? But I think, you know, flow wise and balance wise, it's not perfect yet, but it all, like, at least the top 7 make a lot more sense together now than they maybe did when those 7 were just 6.
Yep.
Blake, can I ask you a question real quick? For those IQ interviews you guys do, he's always on the go. Do you think he times it for when he's on the bus or in the car or wherever? Like
Well, I'll give a little spoiler for tomorrow. We'll get him on the bus to the airport tomorrow morning. So
nice.
We'll see. Tomorrow will be an interesting one because I plan to ask him a little bit about his comments from the weekend and you know, clarify what his intention there, what he meant a little bit was. But obviously a lot of very fun stuff to talk about too with the trade and a couple wins. But yeah, it's been kind of like we've got him on the team bus, like after a practice. We've got him at an airport Starbucks. We've got him at home. We've got him pretty much everywhere. And tomorrow it's a team bus again. So we'll see how that one goes.
You got to ask him tomorrow if he's biting my style with the beanie, you know, and playing in the beanie.
You were there. He went through all of shoot around on New Year's Day with the beanie above the ears. It was just like watching Samson hoop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Blake, tag out whenever you want. But
all right, guys, have a good one.
See ya.
Keep up the great work.
Oh yeah, and for anybody who wants more from Blake, Raptors show tomorrow with Dennis, Jontay Porter coming out, I guess Friday, a piece on him. And then just like Raptors show and sportsnet.ca. Of course, Sportsnet needs the plug from Raptors Republic, naturally.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to keep it focused on Pascal Siakam and Immanuel Quickley, I think mostly. And let's start with Quickley. This is kind of his game. It was sloppy at the end. No question about it. The Raptors, you could see. Like, rarely do you see that much miscommunication, and rarely do you see that much miscommunication, like, in physical language.
Yeah, they were talking a lot.
They were like, hey, come here. Like, get this. Go there. No, come here. Like, and, like, 4 players at once was pretty crazy. But intuitive Quickley, for a lot of the game, you clipped the one, you talked about, like, they go into these sets, you know, they're like, faking the horn set. for Quickley to come and basically do his version of like a floppy. And then he gets top blocked. He's like, okay, I'm going to reroute, pivot into a side pick and roll with Jakob. The coverage goes under, bang, triple.
Kind of like a wide receiver, just
I'm currently in the process of watching every single pull up from Immanuel Quickley just to kind of get like the breadth of what he's able to do with movement. And I don't know if I want to like write it before he gets back, because I want to ask him about, what has impacted his style of movement, but it's like a game of tag, right? You're trying to outskirt and out compete somebody in like this open space. And he's so meandering and wheeling as he it's like a maze. He sees the way through. He knows the space on the court that he wants to get to. And the defender has to try and guess where he's going to go or just follow him extremely aggressively. And I think he did a great job of getting loose in this game. And while like he wasn't getting downhill a ton in this game, he wasn't creating a ton for others, he still ends up with 5 assists. He has 26 points. He's banging triples. It looked easy. It looked easy.
It did look easy. Yeah. I thought, you mentioned the tail end struggles. I thought start this game, he also struggled. I think he was like 0 of 4 to start the game. And I think part of that was maybe they were forcing him to be the on-ball creator a little bit too much. You mentioned like getting downhill, couldn't finish at the basket a couple times.
That happened at the end of the game too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think second quarter, third quarter, you saw him be this, we're going to send 2 staggered pin downs for you to come off of and shoot, or we're going to find you in transition for a 3-point shot, or, hey, you're going to attack a closeout, right? Moving defense and then settle into a nice floater. There's so much to his off-ball game that he can get to these numbers. He can get to 26, 5 and 5 or whatever on this type of efficiency just by being, like you said, like a meanderer off of the ball, just constantly trying to relocate into space, looking for different angles that he can go. There was this one possession, it was an inbound possession, and the Raptors were trying to get Siakam to cut inside for the basket, just like a routine thing. Most teams do this. This is the first play they run. And IQ notices Jakob. He's like, Jakob, come here. Nice little action to set him up for the corner 3. He missed it, but like, it's that sort of conversation.
I just watched one today where he did the exact same thing with Hartenstein, and he banged it though.
Right.
Like the defense is kind of slow responding to like the ATO. They're like, okay, what's going to be? And then boom, he's like into the corner.
Yeah.
That's to me one of the greatest indicators of a really talented shooter with motion is if you can do the grenade DHO, like the dribble handoff into the corner.
Yep.
There's one place to go when that's your possession. It's into your jumper. And IQ loves fading right on his jumper, mostly on mid-range jumpers, but he can also do it from distance as well. And man, I was really, really impressed with him tonight. Also, the on-ball D I didn't think was spectacular. That's never been the big sell in his game. But the connective defensive stuff I thought was quite good in this game, especially in those transitional lineups where the Raptors, they're really the team is in flux. Like Jontay Porter is playing minutes, right? Yeah. Chris Boucher, he's plus 10. He provides a ton of energy. But Jontay Porter, like he got into the game before him. This team doesn't know exactly what it's going to be yet. And in those types of lineups, you see guys with those good defensive tendencies, the wheat from the chaff, right? Like they rise to the top because they will communicate. They will be proactive, and they'll put everybody in a better position because of it. And I think that I was really impressed with Quickley above all else in kind of communicating that, like a quick X out here, stunting here, understanding where his help is behind him, trying to like blow up plays. And it's easier to do that when Ja isn't on the floor, and that's where a lot of that came from. And it's a lot easier to stunt against guys who are maybe on a bit of a cold shooting streak or something like that. But it was good, man. I thought Quickley was like a dream tonight, and not like the superstar point guard dream, but just like a damn good guard dream.
Yeah, just dynamite offense from a like. It's rude to call, in this world, it's like rude to call someone a secondary player, but in the sense that he filled the void for a lot of different offensive kind of moments in this game. And when you have a player who can answer those type of moments, whether it is the shot making, whether it is the secondary creation, and then on the other side being a stout team defender. I think that's a very important role to fill on a team that is so deprived offensively and so needing of exactly the type of stuff that he can bring in terms of pull-up shooting and, create what secondary, just like, hey, being able to attack a closeout and get to the rim if you want, or settle into his nice floater if he wants to. That type of stuff is so important for this team.
He's had in his career a little more trouble as the primary action guy. Teams are more in tune. The help defense is better set up. They haven't been shifted or moved in the shot clock yet. It's a little tougher. Teams are a little bit more engaged. Second side, he's been killing for years. Mm-hmm. And we saw a ton of that tonight. A funny thing, he has the respect as well. When was the last time you saw Pascal actually plant a screen for Dennis Schroeder? He planted one for IQ. I think it was 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He actually planted it because I was wondering, I was like, is he just trying to get his way into a mismatch, which isn't bad. Pascal was killing that all night. But I wondered if he was going to plant it. He planted it. He rolled to the short roll. Nothing happened. They played hedge and recover. IQ didn't make a decision with it. Pascal flashes back middle, takes an ISO, cashes a mid-range jumper. You got to look at what you wanted to. IQ could have turned the corner if it was there. Pascal planted the screen. Then you go to the mismatch afterwards. It's maybe I don't mean to give Pascal too much credit for planting a screen, but just keep in mind, the Raptors guards have not been dangerous the past few years. So whether it's Scottie or Pascal, even OG, these guys are not really landing screens because instead of getting the guard downhill, they want to initiate a switch because they know that's more efficient offense for them. They know that's how the Raptors score.
Have you... I was just going to ask you a question real quick. Have you noticed that maybe over these first couple of games, they do have IQ one pass away from the post? He's the guy. So the strong side doesn't help. They have to bring help from somewhere else. Or is that just me, something that I like?
I don't know if that's actually the case because IQ, I don't want to be down on him too much this game, but I don't think he's been really good at the post entry stuff.
Fair.
To be the guy one pass away, you have to be the guy typically who does post entry, which is why Dennis a lot of the time is the guy one pass away. I would like Quickley to, work that into his game as something that he recognizes. I don't want to give Pascal too much credit for setting a screen, but I do want to give him credit for 24 points on 14 shots. He did have 0 assists. He didn't have many last game, but I don't think that accurately reflects how many advantages he's creating. Yeah. Just because guys don't hit shots, tough. IQ is taking a lot more of those possessions, pushing the ball that create those transition assists. Scottie's obviously going to have those as well. Pascal's assists could dip, but if he's going to shoot as efficiently as he has been, you're going to take that, obviously. He was so impressive tonight. What were your thoughts on his offensive approach?
You said it off the top of him being this sort of just assassin wing, I'm here to score the ball. And that's been the case for these first 2 games. He is just carving out advantages every single possession. It's for himself for the most part, but you're right. He's creating advantage. They are sending help on all of these post-ups, and he's either skimming out of it, getting out of it, just figuring out a way to carve an advantage, or he's making that right pass. So
he beats the stunt.
All the time.
You can't make him pick up his dribble, which is for a guy who's 6'9", for a wing or a forward. It typically you can stunt and make a wing or a forward kill their dribble. You really can. His ability to take on pressure, protect the ball, and keep alive dribble so that he can initiate his mismatch again once the guy tries to recover is a really, really impressive. It's one of the niche aspects of his game, but it's a really important facet of what makes him work. And we saw him do it, beating guys with the first step. We saw him beating guys on mismatches, and we saw him, little hezzy pull over Jaren Jackson, over Santi Aldama, over Xavier Tillman as well. Just really, really impressive.
Pascal
really efficient.
I was just going to say, Pascal is the exact type of guys that the Grizzlies can't defend. Those type of big wing.
A lot of teams can't defend Pascal, though.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. No, I don't mean that as a.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But it is kind of it has been a talking point in the past, right?
Yeah.
what happens, there's like people are like, well, Pascal can't do it in this context, or Pascal can't do it against good teams, or Pascal can't do it against
Right.
good
Yeah. Yeah.
defenders. Like we hear stuff like that, but I don't know about
No, I
like
don't want to ascribe to that. Yeah.
most players do perform worse against like higher level defenses or higher level defenders. That's not unique to him. I'm sure like if you look empirically at it, that might be the case, and
Yeah.
also the case for most players. But also on top of that, like he's performed well against really great defenses this year. He's scored the hell out of the basketball this year. And with the 3-point shot kind of regressing back to the mean positively,
Yeah.
he's making scoring the basketball at the NBA level look incredibly easy. He didn't even play 30 minutes tonight. And it's just like teams have a tough time with him, man. And I tweeted about this. It's like, imagine the whole game you gear up for Pascal's bendy finesse, like endless counter style of kind of squirming to the rim and all that kind of stuff. And then like you get cross matched onto Scottie Barnes and you just feel him like punish you, like brutalize you with physicality.
Yeah.
It's not always going to work out that way. But if I were like Desmond Bane and I got cross matched on like back-to-back possessions against Pascal and Scottie, I would be in a whirlwind. I'd feel like I got teleported to like different lands across space. I'd be like, what the hell is going on here? Because I got put in the spin cycle in the washing machine. And then like I got put in the washing machine, taken out and hit by like, a football player. Anyway, that's enough about that. But go.
No, I was just gonna say it's funny you say that because like it feels as though Pascal and Scottie always receive attention in the post. Like they are constantly getting guys stunting on them or sending the help, or they're like shadowing them times a million just because of the Raptors spacing. And it constantly creates advantages. I think towards the start of the year, it was like, hey, they can lean into this post up more often. You're seeing them do that more, but I think maybe it was you who mentioned it like a while back. Maybe it was you who mentioned it a while back. But they do this through the pick and roll. They get the switch, and then the Pascal or Scottie have a guard on them in the post. That happened against Ja earlier. That happened against Desmond Bane earlier when it was Scottie and he got the foul call. There's just so many advantages that they can create out of that, and teams are switching far too easily on those actions. So they're able to carve out advantages, and now they finally have guys who can create off of those advantages. Tilted defense, IQ, making him score. RJ Barrett.
Defense overhelped way on the other side.
Yeah.
And so RJ gets like this big empty side possession with Jakob. He keeps his man in jail and walks into like a banked layup.
Yep. Oh man,
it's like for
beautiful.
RJ, who's been overextended, and his decision making, we'll talk about, like he had some gaffes tonight for sure, but that's like a super easy possession for RJ given his skill set, and that's because Siakam and Barnes just they warp the floor, they bend it in half when they go into the post. And while Pascal wasn't the guy, like they really didn't go to him late in the game, which I thought was a bit of a shame, but they clearly wanted to. The decision was from on high, from Darko, was like, we're working through IQ and Scottie.
Oh,
it was like points.
How many possessions was it that they ran straight through Scottie and IQ towards the end of the game?
I think it was 4, and the one shooter scored on, and the other Scottie got free throws. And I was like, at least they scored on it. There's stuff to work on there, but you could do the same thing with Pascal. There's going to be advantages that you can get there, and they have to figure out like. And I did say that earlier for the record. And they also do a really good job of targeting mismatches for early offense by doing the early work, beating guys up the floor, pinning them and sealing them below the free throw line, establishing position. And those ones you can always just the hit ahead, see what happens, bend the defense immediately. Because especially late in the game, the Raptors are starting their first action with like 11 or 10 seconds left on the clock. Not good. It's got to be quicker, got to be faster. But the idea of going to the post to really utilize the advantages from that mismatch is not such a bad thing. Not at all. And they can do it with both Pascal and Scottie. The utilization of Pascal, I think I hated it at the start of the year. It's far different now.
Yeah.
Far different now.
Oh, yeah.
Darko relented on some of that stuff and kind of looked at how the Raptors need to succeed offensively. by playing to the team's skill sets, not necessarily to a scheme that he wants or an ideology, but playing to the skill sets on the roster. And the Raptors offense, as bad as their defense has been, the Raptors offense has been really strong lately. And it's largely because they're paying more attention to their wings. Not only now do we get them paying attention to their wings, but we have Immanuel Quickley darting off all that stuff. Jakob Poeltl had a whale of a game, even though he shot 28%. His defense was awesome. RJ gives you a bit of extra creation. Dennis was immense coming off the bench. We have almost 500 people in here watching live. Like the video, so it suggests it to other people live and when it's just being watched tomorrow morning. Please,
Yes,
and
sir.
thank you. It's free. Let's talk about Scottie. 7 of 14 from the floor, 2 of 5 from downtown. I'll let you diagram the 1-3 that he and Immanuel Quickley connected on. It was great. He has 8 assists, pushing the ball up the floor, 20 points. Not a big stocks game because obviously, you know, there weren't a lot of steals in this game. The Grizzlies, they play pretty clean basketball, and Jakob had the 5 blocks. But yeah, Scottie Barnes, let me know what you think.
I just loved his aggressiveness in bully ball. Like, this team is, like you said earlier, with them just like barreling down in the paint with the post up. It's different versions of it between Pascal, Scottie, and now RJ. But Scottie's just brute strength, his brute force in hunting out mismatches, trying to attack the paint. It's just like, who is this? Canada said, "I love basketball again." Yes, you love basketball again. They look good, ladies and gentlemen. It's a fun time. Scottie, though, I thought the fact that him in the IQ 2-man game really showed some fruit. There were some possessions where they were trying to iron out the kinks. We talked about them like vocalizing to each other, pass it to me here, or I want the screen here, etc. There were moments where it looked really well. That one possession where IQ attacks the basket, Scottie pops out, and then Scottie drives to the basket, finds IQ for a 3. I think that's what Blake was mentioning earlier. That is the type of dynamic you have to face when you're guarding those two guys specifically together. And when you see the clear advantage of having a guard like IQ play alongside Scottie, and it's making his game look a little bit more, I guess, thought out, if you will. But yeah.
We have a good listener comment from Keir Doyle who says, "I think it's really fun and exciting that the Raptors and Darko have gotten both Scottie and P going on mismatch killing, but the assist rate is still really high." The thing is, and this is something I like to do, a bit of a hobby of mine, I count advantaged assists. Not the cheap ones, but the assists where you give somebody an advantage to work with. Pascal has always been immensely high. Scottie is also really high in the half court as well. And obviously higher than most in transition. He's a wizard there. But part of rewarding the post up is shooting the 3 that's available when the team collapses. There is the possibility to have really high assist rates while working out of the post. It's different. Like, there's a lot of low post stuff with Jokic. There's a lot of high post extended stuff with Sabonis. But these are valuable hubs. And while they do it differently, so do Scottie and Pascal. A great stat that before the 2022-23 season kicked off, Caitlin Cooper brought onto my podcast was that during the 2021-22 season, the 48-win season, what was the Raptors' most efficient play in the half court? A 48-win season. It was a pass out of the post. And that is because they have Scottie Barnes, they have Pascal Siakam, and you can cut it any way you want. You can talk about the limitations of both those guys' games. The biggest thing is those guys are killer when it comes to passing from front court players. There's just like, you can't pick like 8 guys better than both of them. It's just they're both at the top of the top.
I just want to say that the reason IQ, I'm just going to keep bringing this up towards, I just relate it all to Immanuel Quickley, but the reason he actually helps and pairs so well with that is because he's an excellent above the break shooter. So most of these actions are either like free throw line extended, or they have them, near, I guess, if you want to call it like deep in the post, right? And from those actions, most of the time you're throwing it to above the break. And a guy like Quickley shooting 43% on those shots, that's immense. OG was an elite corner 3 shooter. He was not a great above the break shooter. And when that dynamic changes, the spacing on the floor changes for you. You're actually allowed to have more space for those post ups and vice versa. It's like, it's this yin and yang type of situation where you're just getting easy buckets on both sides.
Yeah. the Raptors have been in this tug of war trying to figure out like how to manage their spacing and their creation. How do they make that happen this season? And that's partly why obviously Darko, when he came in, wanted to make sure like we have to work through Jakob's passing because we need to make him a hub of sorts so that he eventually drags some people out and so that we can get a smidgen of spacing from him. That's the motivation. It didn't necessarily work very well. And in fact, like a lot of the stuff that they ran, like the high post stuff they ran, like the mutton chop series with Immanuel Quickley or the chin series for anybody else, it didn't really work that well in this game. But they could go to a lot of other things. And I guess we're going to keep it there. Jakob Poeltl, defensively, this was his best game in some time. North of 30 minutes. He played in all the lineups that he was supposed to. He played in the high leverage minutes. He did his thing. I mean, it was a whale of a first half. The second half had a little bit more trouble. I think Jaren did a much better job of like getting into space, attacking, cashing threes. And I think Jaren also managed the space between drivers and Jakob better in the second half. But geez, Jakob, just go nuts. I thought he was awesome tonight.
No, Keir Doyle mentioned it. It's 2 games in a row, right? 2 games in a row of Jakob just being really, really awesome on both ends. And you mentioned that he was like 28% from the field tonight, whatever it was. Like he didn't shoot the ball that well. I actually thought a lot of the shots that he did take were like good, solid looks that he usually is going to knock down.
He blew bunnies. He shoots
a lot of
80% at the rim coming into this game. It's not going to happen,
Yeah, exactly. Really. Yeah, but there were like a lot of advantages, like the push shot he had a few times. There was a really, really nice possession where Scottie hit that pocket pass to him, and he had a pretty good look and didn't finish.
That's pretty sick.
It was really nice. Yeah, just a nice little hey, I don't know. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Not going to make any more noises, I guess, on a podcast. It's probably going to be audio. But Jakob is, I think, for the most part, on the defensive end, the structure maybe of these new guys coming in maybe allows him to play his conventional style of defense, if you want, his area of defense. But I do think ultimately some of the blocks that he had tonight were just like going out and getting after it, like just relocating in time, really figuring out the timing on those plays. It was pretty good. Good game from Jakob.
So Keir Doyle says Samson gush about the crazy Dennis pass. So I'll use Dennis I'll use his pass as a segue to get the conversation to RJ. But Dennis attacks a gap. 3 guys converge on him. He goes up like he's going for a layup. He turns his body to the basket. His back is to the corner. He wraps it and drops a bounce pass way back there. RJ finds his way to it, bangs the triple. I was like, that's crazy, dog.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
He's been good, man. He's just as a side note before we get to RJ, Dennis has been really good. Like the creation off of the bench. The creation off the bench, just working in secondary units. I think that just the fact that he can get downhill for you like that, and now you have guys who can sort of take advantage of that. Hey, it looks really good when Schroeder is one creating for others, but doing it and having the room to do so the way he wants to, right? But yeah, he's been awesome.
I have been light on criticism of both Dennis and Darko relative to the fan base this season. Still giving critiques, obviously, but I thought that a lot of the Raptors' failures were more so because of the construction of the team rather than gaffes being made by coach or by point guard. I think that Dennis was overextended, and I think that there were some decision-making, disappointments that he had, and I think that Darko maybe went to him a little bit too often. But I think Darko, now with a team that has better balance, will be able to lean into some things that he wanted to previously. Will be able to make some calls as a rotation manager that will obviously be better. Like I said, 9 positive lineup variations tonight. That's a huge deal. And Dennis, he gets to create against bench guards more often. He can kind of lead second units. He can usher guys around. Even when Immanuel Quickley was struggling late, it was still Emmanuel's possession, but Dennis was giving him tips like, hey, this is what we're running. Yeah. This is what we're going to get. That's important. That will be important in this transition phase where Quickley played less than Dennis last game. He plays more than Dennis this game. I don't expect Dennis to be 30, 29 minutes every night, But until Quickley is fully caught up on everything, I expect Dennis's minutes to be a little bit higher. The hope probably is that Gary gets a better hold on things, starts playing a little bit better, and eats a little bit of Dennis's minutes. And Dennis and Gary are both sitting around 25, 26 or something like that. But I've been really impressed with Dennis lately. RJ Barrett, there is good things happening, like a ton of good things. And then there's all of the Jekyll and Hyde of it all. I thought he played a perfect first half.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he played a perfect first half. And the second half, he hit the 3 late. He checked in for defense, and they didn't allow anything. Both, feathers in his cap. But the third quarter, I was like, what the hell is going on here? This guy is ramming into people for charges. He's getting like way too adventurous on ball. He's pushing a little bit too early without numbers. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? But the first half, RJ bangs that first triple, chose every opportunity in pseudo transition or transition perfectly, cut well off the ball, and like busted his ass on defense.
Yeah.
And gets on the glass.
Pretty good. Yeah. No, it was. You're right about the Jekyll and Hyde thing, because the second half of last night, tonight, was the same as the second half from Monday night, where he had those moments. He had the offensive foul in transition. He did have the nice bounce pass tonight. You're right. But in the Cavs game, right, he had that moment in transition, Quickley on his strong side, Scottie on the other side. In transition, you can pass it to one of them. That's a 3, and it ends up a turnover. There were a few moments there where he either called his number or just had sort of tunnel vision when it came to trying to attack the ball. That is a pro and a con. Like, what can be his greatest strength can also be his kryptonite in certain moments. And you saw that, because in the first half, getting downhill, I thought he did a great job as like a post presence too, just being a guy who can kind of create out of the post
action,
little pinch post
ball.
Action. Yeah. Why not? Always going to finish left, because that's of course like always can't go right. No way. But he will finish left. There was a nice little spin move he had, cutting into the basket off of that Scottie post up. There's just a lot.
The stampede cut in the first half to finish that's pretty good. And I said this, but like when we were talking during the game, not tweeting, but talking, was like, RJ just made a better pocket pass in traffic than I've seen from either Pascal or Scottie.
Yeah.
He's so strong with his left. There's something about lefties. They're so strong in their left. They can just like whip the ball anywhere with any type of manipulation. And like that, skipped my loose swinging bounce pass from his pocket. I was like, that's pretty sick, man, because that hang dribble will occupy the defense as Jakob bursts into the space that he's about to find him with the pass.
Can I ask you a question about RJ?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Phoenix Plays E says, are you applying RJ as James Harden?
Yes,
naturally.
Yes. Yeah,
Go ahead.
That pass was kind of like James Harden. But no, the one thing I wanted to ask you is, how would you shake off the second half stuff from him? Because that's been the question for his entire career, right? And like
something big happened. Big happened.
Right. Yeah.
A shot is missed. The ball goes out. It ends up in RJ's hands. He's got it on the wing. That voice is talking to him. This voice is drowned out by Pascal clapping and yelling and saying, no.
Yeah, I saw that.
Me. He gets the ball. Pascal hands it off to Immanuel Quickley. We're running the offense.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe RJ on this new team, maybe Pascal shooting, RJ has only ever seen Pascal shoot 70% from the floor as a teammate. When he looks at Pascal, he has to be like, this guy's an assassin. This guy's a killer. I got to get him the ball. It's got to be the same with Scottie too, right? So he's not looking at Randall. He's like, okay, you can have the ball.
Okay, I'm going to send you the clip. I'm going to send you the clip, cut this up, and put it over it, because that's such a perfect description of it.
He really was.
No,
he's like,
right.
Don't do it. Right. I know what you're thinking. Do not.
No, you're right. You're right. Maybe that's enough. Maybe actually, honestly, that is enough for him to shake that side out, because you want to get it to the point where he's making those right decisions and being aggressive, but still being aggressive. Like, you don't want to take away from that area of his game. Like,
You
keep
don't want to have
battering.
to amp somebody up. You want to be able to reel them back
Really?
in.
Who
It's
said
like
that again? Yeah,
every
yeah,
kid is that since they're like 4 years old.
yeah,
Which you
yeah.
probably shouldn't be hearing it that early. Like, there's a coach saying, hey, I don't want to be, like they're trying to get the most out of like a 5-year-old who's just sitting there like, I play sports sometimes or whatever. But anyway, I do find it important for there to be hierarchy for players in their own decision making for their own game. That's part of the step to being a star, is not just skill acquisition and skill development, but how do you, as the player who has the skills, what is your hierarchy of what you're trying to achieve on a possession to possession basis? Because you can't just be reactive. You have to be proactive to some degree. We see this with Scottie. Scottie, as a reactive decision maker, is like perfect. Rarely do I ever see him make the wrong read against a moving defense or in transition as the play unfolds before him. But when it's a set defense and he's not sure exactly what he wants to try and do on a possession, that hurts his offense. He's a third-year player. He's like gathering skills like the hungriest guy ever, like the Spirited Away.
Playing
spirit.
hungry hippos
Nom,
with
nom.
skills. Yes.
Exactly. Hungry
Yeah.
hippos. So once he collects all of them, then he'll know what he wants to do as he develops. That's kind of like what the Tampa year was for Pascal, right? Pascal was changing from this like bursty wing scorer into a guy who's changing his game into a more methodical approach where he operates not in straight line drives, not as a corner 3-point shooter, but as a hub in the middle of the floor who's comfortable with everybody like crowding his space and what type of passing reads come from that. It's progression isn't linear. It's all over the place. We've seen that with many players. And luckily, Scottie and Pascal have both been at this point incredible, development paths and development stories to this point. But yeah, it's something to pay attention to, is what players want to do. Hierarchy for the player and the team at large is very important. And RJ Barrett is a guy who can really, really benefit from that, because you see some of the plays he made in this game. He's not OG Anunoby, and certainly not, but he won't be. But he made some plays that OG couldn't. Yeah. And those types of plays from your third or fourth guy did, from a creation standpoint, overwhelm the Grizzlies defense. And it was because he has a few more of those skills.
Okay, since you brought that up, yes, the defense is going to see a clear change with OG gone. There's no one there. I even to start this game, it was like, all right, who's going to be guarding Ja? Who's going to be guarding Desmond Bane? It's like, I don't know if these are the matchups we necessarily want. They still worked out through their kinks, but for the most part, you're left wondering who is going to be the main assignment on the other star player, the opposing star player. That's a drawback of not having a player like OG Anunoby. The pro, I guess, if you would, for a guy like RJ Barrett, secondary creation. He was awesome as a guy who was attacking second units. So everybody here in the comments is mentioning the transition game. He is exceptional as a transition scorer. And this team with him and Quickley now looks even better as a transition offense than they were beforehand. So they're doubling down on something they were already exceptional in. I feel I don't want to go ahead and be like, oh, this person is better than this, because they bring two completely different things. But when you have, maybe what this Raptors team needed was something like an RJ and Quickley more than it needed the defense of OG. But that will be left to be determined in the years and months and whatever that's coming. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough to replace OG. I'm not saying that, but maybe this current iteration required the offensive juice of those two guys more than it needed the defensive creation, of OG.
These are the questions, right? And that's why obviously you and I and Trey hopped on the podcast immediately after the trade happened, and we talked about it and felt like it was a win immediately. Yeah, because it made sense for the roster. It seemed like they were going to be able to elevate and accentuate existing skills and elevate and accentuate incoming skills. As far as like a roster management or contextual point of view, that's a huge win. They also got younger, They also probably, well, I don't know exactly what happens with RJ and Immanuel going into the future, but I think they probably view it as like more tenable for what decisions they want to make in the summer. And they get a chance to be like flexible looking at, I don't know what happens with Pascal at the trade deadline. If I did know something, I would tell the fine people, the listeners or whatever. But the truth is, like, they've been trying to trade Pascal for a long time. There's been like a few different stops along the way over the past few years where they've tried. And some of that got reported, some of that didn't, but they've been trying. And they get one last look at like, okay, we're seeing skill sets mesh. We're going to see like what we view as the new ceiling of the team, more data to look through. Who knows what happens with it, but they get a look at some of the guys and we'll see how it goes going forward. But you have a new team. You're 2-0 with it. You've beaten the Cavs, who didn't have Garland or Mobley, to be fair. You beat the Grizzlies, who now have Ja, and were 5-2 with Ja prior to this.
Yeah, they've been good.
You beat two teams that are, you know, as far as I'm concerned, these are good wins, both of them. They lost against Detroit. It was like, Jesus, man, I can't believe this happened.
Only up from here, baby. That's all it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Phoenix Plays E says, let's be realistic. Pascal is gone, LOL. I didn't think OG would be gone, man.
Same.
I thought, now, of course, that means that the OG, that of course means that the OG stuff, his conversations with the team that no one would really be privy to as far as like his intentions for the offseason, they obviously went one way. But nobody really could have known that. My expectation, or what I understand, is that Pascal and the Raptors have been quite far away, not just like on a number, but just on like intentionality for a little bit of time. Who knows if they bridge that gap between now and the summer? Who knows whatever happens between now and the trade deadline? But it's very hard to predict. Like, there's a reason I'm in the business of talking about games that have happened and things that have happened, because I like diagnosing what happened rather than predicting what will, because I just the information deficit between the Masai and Bobby, the guys who make the decisions, and what I'm operating with, you know, hearing little whispers and getting like a little source, nothing, man. I know nothing. And neither do any of the big decision makers. Like Woj, he can't predict anything until it happens. Then he gets the call, sure, but it's tough to say
3 days
happen.
3 days before the OG trade, Woj literally said the Raptors are still unsure about OG and Siakam.
Then we get the report, right, that the Raptors have been like, had this trade lined up
for weeks.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, you know, like,
yeah, no, you're right. No, it's a fair point. It's hard to sift through all of the noise and the rumors, and to also try to delineate and figure out what's real and what isn't, and what information is something you want to take as valid or whatnot. But I think whatever the future of this team is, it will probably be a little bit more clear in the next 4 or 5 weeks. By the way, just as an aside, winning does help. Winning does cure certain things.
From Pascal quite often last year at practices and post-game press conferences, as he glumly said, winning solves everything. You know?
Yeah.
That's like, and we have a comment here that, you know, I'm not sure if he's calling us clowns or the comment section, but saying that Pascal wants to remain on the Toronto Raptors. He has stated that has been the reporting. His commentary has been like clear. There hasn't been a ton of it this season, right? Like, he's a guy like most players who says, I'm leaving this up to my agents. This is an ongoing contract discussion. But in the past, has loved Toronto, all that kind of stuff. But the Raptors have to give him that contract for him to take it. And if the Raptors aren't going to give it, he can love Toronto and he can still go elsewhere if that is the case. I don't know if he gets a max. I don't know what happens. You know, Minhas Rahman says Kyrie Irving said he was going to spend his entire career in Boston. Things change, don't they ever? I mean, isn't that the truth? But oh man, it's a fun game. Really fun
awesome
games.
Game. Yeah, awesome game. I think just in general, the fact that Raptors basketball specifically, is fun again. It looks modern again. Just to plug, shout out to Louis Zatzman, who wrote an incredible piece being like, this team is fun for once in, the last 2 years.
Full
or
of
whatever.
Oxford commas, so there was a lot of emotionality in it.
He was cooking. He left the media room like, oh, I'm in my bag today.
He messaged me, actually. He messaged me. He's like, I'm going to write something really good. And I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Darko Stan says, quickly doing the Halliburton skipping was fun. My grandma texted me, and I'll read you what she said. I'll just pull it up, Grandma. She says, I love Quickley's reaction after he gets a 3. Me too. Not only because we're seeing so many of them, because that's good, because we like that, but also it's fun. He's a fun player. He's like a little Energizer Bunny guard. It's like, man, Fred VanVleet, for all the things he has become, like a really quality game manager who gets his guys the ball in the right spot, especially with Houston, like a really heady off-ball defender. He's not the same like pop, pop, like sprinting around the floor three-point shooter that shot like 70% from 3 from the back half of the Milwaukee Bucks series through the end of the finals. Like, he's not really that anymore. But Immanuel Quickley's like, I'm running through a maze. I know where it ends. You guys don't. And that's fun basketball, man.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when you have 2 like really great wings to work off of that. And you have like these guys who suddenly, when they score in a tertiary spot, you seem like they seem even a little bit overqualified for this, underqualified for other things, but overqualified for this. The balance of the roster, better. It's good. I'm happy about it. I'm excited.
Just to bring back something.
Did you print that out tonight?
Yes, I printed it out right now, right before the podcast.
You have a printer?
Yes, with color, baby. Let's go.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a printer, man.
You know what? I actually spent the whole day because I was returning a bunch of just boxes and things like that. I was trying to work the printer, so I had to put it to use. You mentioned earlier that just in general, this team makes a lot more sense. The roster makes more sense. And role definition, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is something that's really important for a team that is, one, trying to develop its players, but also just trying to figure out what those players can do. And when you throw specific roles at them, they can thrive in those roles. So I put that for you. Yeah.
From Lero, he says, guys, I want your Jontay Porter thoughts. Please, I love him. You did miss at the start of the podcast, Blake Murphy was on. He did talk about Jontay Porter. Just for you, Lero, since you love him, sportsnet.ca, Blake will have a piece on Jontay, I imagine with like really insightful quotes from Jontay and people around him, just to keep in mind for your reading. But from my point of view, to repeat what I said earlier in the podcast, I thought that Jontay was awesome in a limited role. I thought that his ability to identify what the Raptors needed defensively from him, from a motion point of view, to play in a pretty loose scheme at this point and keep making like the right decision and keep showing up in the right spot, and also like compete on a couple switches that maybe you didn't think he could compete on. All that stuff went pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
The offensive stuff, like quick decision maker, obviously there wasn't a ton of pop there this game. He's a G League big. He is that until he proves he's not. He's dealt with like a ton of stuff early on in his career, but really good decision making and put himself in the right spots. So yeah, man, it's
pizza party soon. Pizza party soon.
Peter Parker, man.
Yeah.
Pizza time.
Pizza time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, I guess the one thing I'll say with Jontay, the one play that kind of actually did it twice. Switched out onto Ja, contained the Ja drive, contained and contested a Ja layup or shot. Super, super impressive stuff for a guy who's been working on his game in the G League right now and just kind of gets thrown into the rotation out of nowhere. I mean, I don't even think nobody really expected him to play tonight, but obviously given the fact that Otto Porter Jr. was out tonight, maybe Garrett Temple is still missing that whatever with the ankle injury and whatnot. You throw out another guy in there.
I hear he's the new coach.
Yeah, Garrett Temple.
The only coach who wears a suit, because coaches always dress in like athleisure now.
Yeah, he does dress incredibly well. I'm not going to lie. Good dresser.
Very, very authoritative figure. Yeah. Very authoritative aesthetic. What I say goes. Absolutely. ND says, something I noticed, there's a ton more Raptors fans interaction since the trade. 470 in the live right now is pretty crazy. What do you mean, man? There's 470 people every time I do one of these. What are you talking about? When he makes a little video essay, he has like 50K views on every single time
Don't
he
do
does
that.
one of those.
Yeah,
for anybody who wants, a collection of film reporting and quotes after this game tomorrow morning, go to Steve Dangle Podcast Network, SDPN, and S will have a video for you. Just
Yes,
a mental note. And also keep in mind with RaptorsRepublic.com. But also with so many people in here, like the video, of course, another reminder. Do you have any other thoughts before we get out of here on this Raptors team?
Any other thoughts? I mean, it's just interesting from a covering this team perspective. The amount of information we now are able to sort of digest, new information, I should say, just to kind of take it in, see how it looks. And over the next 4 or 5 weeks, depending on whatever the hell they decide to do at the trade deadline, you have this roster that somehow feels like a new season all in itself. They played 33 games. We saw the process for that. It didn't work. A trade happened. A new season has begun. A new year has begun for this Raptors team.
They'll never lose
whatever, yeah, they'll never lose again. Exactly. Whatever it looks like, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, I just want to tell y'all that it's fun again to watch this team. And that's sometimes that's enough, maybe that should be enough for some fans to be like, hey, we get fun basketball. I tweeted this out and someone quote tweeted it. I think it was a Mavs fan saying, you know what? I remember how depressing it was to watch the Mavs last year. And I should remember that more often when I'm watching this team this year, because it's tough to watch bad basketball. And when you watch something that's fun, like we have for the last 2 games, it's more to watch. Sorry, I banged my desk really hard, but yes.
There's fervor. You're impassioned. This is what we've been looking for. The passion, the aggression, the intention. That's what we've wanted for this team. And the guys who are new, they have more pep. Like, they may not be better defenders at their peak than some of the guys on the Raptors roster, but they have pep in their step that the Raptors seem to have been depleted of because of this dreary season to this point. No matter how many times Darko busts through the wall like the Kool-Aid man saying, we should smile, life is good, we're all millionaires and basketball is fun. Even still, it's kind of tough to, get up for every game when the other guys are millionaires and they're having more fun than you. It's kind of tough. And everybody looks a little bit happier now.
I was just going to ask you, quick question. Do you think a pizza party is in store, Sacramento on Friday? Just to kind of give a look ahead, I guess. Do you think they get the dub against the Sacktown Kings?
Pizza time!
Hell yeah.
I think so, yeah. I mean, hope springs eternal, man. If you're not going to hope for a pizza party over a paltry 3-game winning streak, what are we doing here? Nesta says Chinatown, San Fran, Cali pizza sucks. I had awesome pizza in San Francisco. I believe it was at a place called Uncle Sal's. I was there when I was like 22. I saw the game between Washington and Golden State, where Golden State had this huge comeback and Bradley Beal punched Draymond Green in the face because Draymond Green kicked him in the nuts. And I also had that night
I forgot about
the game.
That. Wow.
I also had that night after the game. I had Uncle Sal's Pizza, and Uncle Sal's Pizza rocked my world. Richard Pilsky says SF has good food. Agreed, man. And also kind of a funny thing too, the video in Oracle, because I was seeing it online at the same time. The video in Oracle was only showing Beal punching Draymond. They didn't show him kick him in the nuts. So the fan base is like, hey, punched him for nothing. What are they doing? And it was pretty funny.
That's kind of like the Warriors broadcast. That's actually kind of like the Warriors broadcast. You know the meme, or maybe the picture of the guy stabbing the other guy, but actually it turns out to be, if you zoom out, the other guy is stabbing the other guy. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That's sort of how Warriors broadcast sometimes happens with Draymond Green.
I'm not sure if it's Mike Sal or Mick Sal Qual says, what are your thoughts on Regina pizza? Okay, we've got some Saskatchewan.
Okay, all right.
I've hardly ever had good pizza in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, you have to like the same way it is in the UK, the same way it is in like New Zealand. You have to get somebody from not that place bringing their food to that place. That's kind of what it is. So there
Is
is
there
good
a
food,
is there like
but
a Pizza Hut, pizza? Is there like a
I mean, yeah,
franchise?
there's
Okay.
chains.
Okay.
I grew up
Yeah.
on Pizza Hut. After you play a tournament with your pals, you go to Pizza Hut. They got the pizza. They got
Nice
the
little
open
buffet.
salad. Yeah, the buffet like that. All
Yeah.
the, and then you go and pour your own drink or whatever. Have a little sody
Right.
pop.
Yes.
Oh man, that was everything. Also, when I played my first summer at Gonzaga, that was like I didn't travel a lot as a kid or with my family at all, really. Only once I was an adult. We went to the Golden Corral buffet.
Okay.
Was
What
crazy,
wait,
man.
what is Golden Corral? Am I supposed to know what that is? Is
It's
that
a buffet in America, dude. It's
okay?
insane. It was
Okay.
like decadence beyond the pale. It was
What kind of
incredible.
food? What are we
Everything,
like
man. It is classic
wow.
American, like, obnoxious decadence. It had everything. I felt like it was, you know, I just thought it was incredible. I'd never been
Wow.
exposed to that before.
By
And
the way,
also,
the
like,
way
I was getting
you
to play.
no, I was just gonna say the way you worded that, you said you spent the summer in Gonzaga. Yes, he was Kevin Pango's teammate for I don't know.
Teammate is fairly um that's a way to
Stretch.
put it.
Yeah.
Um John Stockton's kid, David Stockton, who
All right.
played
Yeah.
in the NBA for about as long as Kevin did, but he was the coach of the team that I was on, which was like pretty fun.
Yeah.
And but all he did was make fun of me because the Raptors weren't good ever at that point in my life. So he would just make fun of me for being a Raptors fan constantly. But he did teach me a lot about the pick and roll. So I'm in the Stockton
You're
family
in the
tree of
Stockton
pick and
family tree.
roll learners. Yeah. Yeah. It
You and
goes
Darren Williams. Yeah.
John,
David
David,
Samson.
Samson. Those are very
Wow.
biblical names, you
Biblical
know?
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Abrahamic, God bless. I feel like you have any interesting tidbits you'd like to share before we get out of here?
Nothing biblically related. But I mean, just listen, pizza is very good. It's one of my favorite foods. Now I know about Golden Corral, which I never knew about. When I go to the States, I got to try it apparently. So yeah. Is it just a States thing? I'm assuming. Yeah. Yeah. But
I don't know, but I grew up in Saskatchewan, dog. So I had no access to like anything. So
yeah.
maybe it could be in the States, maybe it could be in Canada, but like I didn't know.
Does Saskatchewan have good berries? Keir Doyle just said can't get
There
Saskatchewan.
is a famous type of berry called the Saskatoon that grows around Saskatoon, and
Interesting.
yeah, so Saskatoon
Cool.
berries are good. The Saskatoon berry pie is popular in Saskatoon,
Hell yeah.
but also Saskatoon calls itself the Paris of the Prairies. It calls itself the Bridge City because it has like 4 bridges. We tend to oversell things when we're in close proximity to them, which maybe we've done with the Raptors. Who knows? That feels
Nice.
like a good place to end it. Yeah, thanks to everybody for hopping in. It's been an absolute blast. Make sure to go to SDPN, the YouTube channel, to get all of S's work, and Forbes as well. They wanted somebody rich to write for them, so they hired.
Oh, come on. Oh, what? How long have you been waiting to say that joke?
But anyway, Forbes and SDPN, really great places to get S's work. Maybe something with Canada basketball with Raptors Republic
Yeah.
in the future. And for myself, just raptorsrepublic.com. Subscribe there if you please. Like this current video. It helps suggest it to other people. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's lots of good stuff coming from myself and others. God bless everybody. Raptors are 2-0 since the trade. Hope springs eternal. All good. Thank you to everybody in the chat for being engaging, insightful, and kind. I know you guys argue sometimes, but you know, it's nice to peek in on that stuff. It's a bit of entertainment, especially these late night games. It's a long West Coast road trip. We're going to be here at like 1 a.m. on a couple of these games, man. So from myself, from S, whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.